I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old Oscar Countdown. And here we are, the Oscar nominations have come out, and we're in this sort of 6-week lull period where we have the nominations, and now we're going to predict what we think is going to win. For the past 3 months, I was trying to predict what was going to get nominated for the Oscars, but of course I've done other stuff, Golden Globes predictions, Critics' Choice predictions, and reactions and whatnot. And essentially these next 6 weeks will be following suit more so with the more recent videos, so there's not going to be a structure where I give my prediction for Best Picture one week, and then I give my prediction for Best Actor next week, like I did with the nominations. Essentially, where they're going to be a little bit more abstract videos, like a video like this, certain storylines I'm looking forward to, or sort of trying to analyze before we go into the Oscar night, certain categories that I'm unsure about, which will be next week, and then the week after that will be 5 categories that I am sure about. So certain videos like that certain bold predictions, dark horse, underdogs, things like that can give you some insight into the Oscar race, because it would be useless to say, oh, my Best Picture prediction is Everything Everywhere All at Once, and then end the video 2 minutes later. So, because we don't have the structure of the past videos, it allows us to be a little bit more flexible, so I hope you appreciate that. This is what I usually do every year, but of course the videos are all different, so still subscribe to the channel if you're interested in what's going to win for Best Picture, because of course we have all the nominations, but now we're trying to figure out what's going to win, and oftentimes having a solid Oscar track record is even better than having a solid Oscar nominations track record. If you're able to predict, particularly a lot of those sort of smaller technical categories that not a lot of people talk about, that's why you come to this channel, because we also like to do those analysis. But for this video, I want to talk about 6 Oscar storylines that I'm looking forward to, that I'm ready to analyze, certain actor races, certain storylines in the sense of who's going to win in this category, or this person versus that person, or a lot of hypotheticals, and then trying to analyze what's going to happen and what I want to see. So if this person wins SAG, therefore that will mean that. Sort of like that. That's what I mean in terms of storylines. I hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's just jump into things with my first storyline that I'm going to be watching before going into Oscar night is who will win Best Director. This is the first one I thought of, so it was the first one I wanted to talk about, because it really is the unknown kind of a category, because for most years the director category is pretty locked up early on. Most of the times a frontrunner, whether it be Jane Campion or Chloe Zhao or Alejandro Inarritu, sort of announce themselves as the frontrunner early on. They stay that way. We don't have a lot of surprises, particularly in that Best Director category. Even when we have a surprise with Coda beats Power of the Dog, Jane Campion still wins for director. Or when Spotlight surprises over Revenant, Inarritu still wins for director. So we don't get huge surprises. Even the Moonlight year, Damien Chazelle still won for La La Land. So the indication for me would be, okay, what was the frontrunner? It was The Fabelmans. Who's the director? Steven Spielberg, legend director, making a very personal film, has been campaigning, went to TIFF, is doing a lot of these Q&As, is out there, wants this, does think of The Fabelmans as a serious Oscar movie. But then, of course, not everything's going for him. Why didn't he get nominated at BAFTA? He didn't even get shortlisted. Very strange. I guess he didn't really like The Fabelmans. Will director Spielberg still win for director, even though he doesn't have maybe that international support from BAFTA? Well, hard to say, tough to say. What about his lack of a win at Critics' Choice? That went to the Daniels. Well, you could explain that away by saying that movie was very well liked at Critics' Choice, but even something like a Kate Blanchett still won at Critics' Choice. She was still enough of a frontrunner there. They didn't go with Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. So there is some sort of hesitation, because I go, Spielberg is the frontrunner, that's the sort of historical logic, that should make sense, but The Fabelmans probably isn't winning Best Picture. Now, when we're talking about TIFF People's Choice winners, oftentimes they get at least one above the line win. The Fabelmans, its best chance, I think, is director, potentially picture, but still probably director. And then when you look at the sort of other nominees, you go, okay, well, who is it going to be? It could be Daniels. Of course, they won it at Critics' Choice, and they have the support of Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it could pull a sort of Parasite-esque type of win with screenplay, director, picture, maybe even a technical category like editing. But you're already rewarding them for the screenplay, so do they really feel they need to reward it for directing too, and picture? Do they really love it that much? We don't know. Oftentimes we see the front runners often get cut down, and we're still 6 weeks away from the Oscars, so Everything Everywhere All at Once is that front runner. Will people try to take it down? Will we see a surprise? Last year we thought Power of the Dog would dominate, and then Coda sort of surprised out of nowhere. So we're not sort of immune to these sort of things, so there's some concern there. So then you go, okay, well, what about Martin McDonagh? He could potentially win for director too. Maybe Banshees wins screenplay, director, picture. Even that's a possibility. So the way I ultimately look at it is, I think If Daniels win at BAFTA, I think that's a really strong sign for them. But the big thing ultimately is DGA. You'd imagine Spielberg wins a DGA because he's a very well-liked director, particularly within the American branch for the directors. So if he doesn't win there, then I think there's no chance he's winning at the Oscars. But if he wins there and Martin McDonagh, say, wins director at BAFTA, and then of course Daniels won Critics' Choice, there is no sort of clear number two that could upseat Spielberg, so I would go with sort of the established DGA winner in that case. But, if Daniels win DGA and then probably BAFTA, or Daniels win DGA, and even if McDonagh wins BAFTA, you'd still probably lean for the Daniels there. Will be a really interesting storyline to see because there really is a lot of unsureness. It should make a logical sense and historical sense that Spielberg were to win this award, but not getting shortlisted at BAFTA, not winning a Critics' Choice. For me, he has to win DGA if he still wants to stay in this race. But if he does win DGA, then that makes him the frontrunner in my mind. And the second Oscar storyline that I'm going to be watching is, does Michelle Yeoh have a chance? Now, notice that I didn't say Best Actress who will win, Michelle Yeoh versus Cate Blanchett. Right now, at least the way I look at the race for Best Lead Actress, Cate Blanchett is the frontrunner, and she's a solidified frontrunner. Particularly because at Critics' Choice, Everything Everywhere All at Once overperformed in terms of nominations, in terms of wins, getting in for director and screenplay and picture. They really liked that movie. But they didn't give the win to Michelle Yeoh. They still gave it to Cate Blanchett. And I think Tar is a really strong movie that got in for director, that got in for picture. And right now, it really doesn't have any wins aside from a probably clear win with Best Lead Actress. So Michelle has a lot to sort of go up against. Cate Blanchett, of course, a legendary actor, well respected, a great performance. She won a Critics' Choice and at the Globes. Tar overperformed at the Oscars, getting in for editing and cinematography. So we know the Oscars like that movie. Are they really willing to make sure that has no wins? Do they really love Everything Everywhere All at Once? So much so that they're willing to give it a actress win on top of the supporting actor, on top of maybe screenplay, on top of picture. Do they really like it that much, so much so to unseat Cate Blanchett in a movie that they really like in Tar? There's too many things right now going against Michelle Yeoh to say that it's even a competition. In my mind, right now it's Cate Blanchett as the clear frontrunner. But it's still a narrative that I want to watch because I still think Michelle Yeoh has a chance. The storyline is, does Michelle Yeoh have a chance? I think she still does. But for me, she needs to do something at SAG. So if she wins, of course, lead actress at SAG, that would be a big thing for her. Show a lot of sign of support for her. I don't think that even makes her the front runner, but makes her absolutely a competition between her and Cate Blanchett. But even if she doesn't win for Best Lead Actress at SAG, but Everything Everywhere All at Once wins for Best Ensemble at SAG, we've seen movies like Parasite do really well in terms of that SAG ensemble speech of seeing everyone together and sort of as a group, and even movies like Coda or Spotlight, I think, have succeeded in that regard. By going up there and seeing a whole ensemble and sort of an underdog team mentality really sort of helps films that we've seen in the past. So if Everything Everywhere All at Once wins at Best Ensemble, you need Michelle Yeoh to speak. You need to make it clear that, okay, Ki Kwan, he's going to win for supporting actor. We got that there. If this is a real movie that's supposed to win Best Picture, that's supposed to win Best Screenplay, you have to give the win to Michelle Yeoh. You have to frame it that way. You have to frame it that if you like Everything Everywhere All at Once, you have to also like Michelle Yeoh, therefore you have to give both of them the win. You have to frame it that way for Oscar voters by having Michelle Yeoh speak if the film wins Best Ensemble at SAG. But if it wins Ensemble at SAG and she doesn't speak and she loses at SAG to Cate Blanchett, I have a feeling that BAFTA will just give it to Cate Blanchett and follow suit with the Globes, with Critics' Choice, with SAG. It'll be hard to sort of overcome, particularly when we're talking about Cate Blanchett, who's won multiple BAFTAs and been nominated multiple times. Yes, Michelle Yeoh, this is her first Oscar nomination, but she's been nominated twice at BAFTA, so maybe there's a little bit of more appreciation for her at BAFTA, so maybe she gets that win there. But I'd imagine if Cate wins at SAG, BAFTA will ultimately follow suit. So this is going to be an interesting race to see. Does Michelle Yeoh have enough? I mean, she has the support, I think. Her movie's well-liked. She's well-liked. She's a veteran actress. She has this great story of, trying in Hollywood over and over again. She hasn't won an Oscar. Cate Blanchett's won 2. Does Cate really need one? There are things going in Michelle's favor, but right now, after that Critics' Choice loss, there is just a general sense that I think Cate Blanchett is the clear frontrunner and Michelle Yeoh has to do something to make it a conversation. At least that's how I see the race. Then the third Oscar storyline I want to watch is Angela Bassett versus Kerry Condon. Now, no one's really talking about this category or this race, but I do think it's more competitive than people think. There was really an uncertainty around supporting actress for a long time. Who's going to win? There wasn't a clear winner. Michelle Williams was sort of the presumptive winner early on in the season, but then they switched her to lead actress, so now we didn't really find one. Then Angela Bassett sort of surprised with the win at the Globes. Then Critics' Choice, I think, sort of follows suit from the Globes and gives to Angela Bassett. And now everyone's going, okay, I guess Angela Bassett's going to win for Best Supporting Actress. But let's look at the stats. The fact of the matter is Black Panther Wakanda Forever didn't get nominated for Best Picture. Most of the time, acting winners also have a Best Picture nominee. And then the sort of birth of this idea and the storyline was, where's the Banshees of Inisherin going to win? We all agree that it's a very well-liked movie. Well, most of the time, well-liked movies, like Belfast or The Favorite, that don't end up winning Best Picture, or even three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, they end up winning something, right? They end up getting at least one surprise award. Belfast gets in for Screenplay. The Favorite gets in for Olivia Colman. There is some sort of surprise there. So where's that going to show up? Because in my mind, I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is winning picture, and then I also think it's going to win for screenplay. I think Spielberg's winning for director, so I don't think McDonough sort of gets anywhere. So the question then being, well, where does the Banshees of Inisherin get support? I think in one of the two acting categories of either supporting actress or best actor. We'll talk about best actor a little bit later, but right now supporting actress. The way I look at it is, even if Angela Bassett wins at SAG, which I expect her to do, if Kerry Condon wins at BAFTA, this is a really sort of up in the air kind of a race. There's no guarantee that Angela Bassett wins, because we've seen these narratives not necessarily work. The fact that Angela Bassett, she's a veteran actor in a well-liked movie. But then the question then becomes, well, why was Black Panther nominated for Best Picture if it was a so well-liked movie? Why was it snubbed in production design? Why was Angela Bassett not nominated for the first Black Panther? She was in the first Black Panther. Why this one? I feel like there wasn't a clear frontrunner. We just sort of ordained Angela Bassett the winner, and I'd be happy for her to have the win. I did a whole video on her in the summer during my Movie Star Magic series. I'd love for her to win. But Kerry Condon has the support of the Banshees of Inisherin. I don't know if her performance is big enough to get her the win ultimately. That's just why I maybe go to Best Actor. But I think this is a category still to watch. I don't know if Angela Bassett is the clear frontrunner and a solidified frontrunner like so many people think. Then the fourth Oscar storyline that I'm going to be looking for is the Best Actor category. Particularly, I think it's Brendan Fraser versus Colin Farrell. Now, some people think Austin Butler, and I do think he's an absolute contender, and he could win at SAG and surprise everyone. But right now, I do think it's a Colin Farrell versus Brendan Fraser situation. And this idea stems from the fact of the last category, which is sort of they're connected, which is this idea that where's the Banshees of Inisherin going to win? And more importantly, are narratives going to hold true? As a matter of fact, this year sort of reminds me of the 2018 year, in which it was Olivia Colman versus Glenn Close in the Best Actress race, and the Supporting Actress race, it was Regina King versus Rachel Weisz. Now, in the Supporting Actress race, Regina King ended up winning because she had the sort of narrative factor, and she was sort of the clear frontrunner early on in the season, and then ultimately prevailed, and there wasn't no sort of clear number two. But then in the Best Lead Actress race, Glenn Close had the narrative of the wife, but it was a movie that not enough people had seen, and ultimately they went with the movie they liked, with Olivia Colman in The Favorite. And I think something similar can happen here. Angela Bassett may end up winning for Supporting Actress because there's no real competition for her, even if Kerry Condon wins at BAFTA. But then if you look at the Best Actor category, Brendan Fraser, he's got this narrative, it's this comeback journey, he should beat out. But will he beat out Colin Farrell in a movie that's well-liked? Colin Farrell's still a well-liked actor, particularly in The Banshees of Inisherin, which is a well-nominated movie. Will he beat him out? We've seen this already with Glenn Close losing to Olivia Colman. Glenn Close had that narrative. She's never won. This is her time. Even though the movie hasn't really been seen by a lot of people, at the end of the day, they went with Olivia Colman. They went with the movie that they liked. Same thing with Chadwick Boseman. Passed away, R.I.P., legendary actor. Let's reward him in his final performance. But they went with Anthony Hopkins. Even though he already had an Oscar, they wanted to go with Anthony Hopkins because they liked him more than the father. Because ultimately, narratives are hard to control when you're talking about 10,000 people at the Oscars. Not everyone thinks in the same way. They ultimately vote for the person that they like the performance the best. So for these past 5 years, we've really seen these sort of quote-unquote historical Oscar narratives fall away in many regards, which is I'm being very cautious of that. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the acting winners in all of the 4 acting categories for the past 5 years, do you want to know what the average is of actors who win in their category that also have a Best Picture nominee? 0.8. That means less than 1 winner per year wins in an acting category and doesn't have a Best Picture nominee. So let's say essentially one every year. So we get an Eyes of Tammy Faye when Jessica Chastain wins there. Eyes of Tammy Faye, not nominated for Best Picture, but Jessica Chastain, we love you so much, we're going to give you the win. Same thing with Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk, not nominated for Best Picture, but we like you so much, we'll give you the win there. But look at your predictions right now. Are you seriously predicting that Brendan Fraser is going to win for The Whale and Angela Bassett's going to win for Black Panther Wakanda Forever? Both those movies aren't nominated for Best Picture. If you are doing that, you're going against historical average. We're less than one of the 4 winners every year is from a performance in which their movie was not nominated for Best Picture. So you're going against historical precedent if you're betting that. So you have to sort of look at your predictions holistically and go, where am I predicting this upset? Colin Farrell makes a lot of sense here. Even if he doesn't win at SAG, even if he just wins at BAFTA, which I think probably the split will happen. Narratives we've seen sort of time and time again disappoint, and we've seen people give awards to movies that they like, and they like The Banshees of Inisherin, and Colin Farrell has had a great year, and he has been campaigning. I think there's a real chance that this, even more so than something like an Austin Butler for Elvis, but even if Austin Butler wins, it would still make sense within the sort of holistic fact of Angela Bassett wins. That's your sort of one sole lone Best Picture movie that didn't get performance that didn't get a Best Picture nominee, and then the other winners, Kate Blanchett from Tar, or Michelle Yeoh for Everything Ever All at Once, Ki Kwan, and then Austin Butler or Colin Farrell. Makes most sense. I'd be cautious of the Brendan Fraser sort of renaissance when talking about the Oscars, because these narratives don't always happen the way we think of them. It may be the performance to do it, and maybe Carrie Condon surprises in the supporting actress category, but if you are predicting that, you have to know that you are going against historical precedent. Just note that. Then my 5th Oscar storyline I want to watch is, does the winner of Best Original Screenplay ultimately win Best Picture? I think it does. Right now, the way I see that category of screenplay, it's Everything Everywhere All at Once versus The Banshees of Inisherin. What's going to happen with picture is probably between those two. Those are probably the clear frontrunners. So if Banshees wins for screenplay, I think it ultimately wins for picture. Why? Well, because you look at the past 10 years, 8 out of the past 10 Best Picture winners also won in a screenplay category, either an original or adapted. The most common path for a Best Picture winner is to win in a screenplay and to win in Best Picture. And then when we look at these sort of types of winners in screenplay, the sort of competitors every year that I've seen, now covering the Oscars for my 7th season, is that there's a sort of bold, creative, unique script, and then there's a very writerly, dialogue-focused script. Particularly in original screenplay, we see these 2 different types of movies. So Get Out would be the unique, bold movie, and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri would be the writerly, dialogue-focused movie. Most of the time, the Oscars go with the unique, bold movie. So Get Out beats Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Promising Young Woman, the creative, more movie, beats out Trial of Chicago 7, the more writerly dialogue movie. Same thing with Her over American Hustle, if you want to go back that far. The only time when these sort of writerly type movies beats out the more creative, unique movie, well, that's when it wins Best Picture. So Green Book beats out The Favorite, ends up winning Best Picture. Birdman beats out Grand Budapest Hotel, that ends up winning Best Picture, Birdman. So there is certain reasons why the Oscars would go for the sort of more traditional movie, and if were to win Best Picture. So if you're predicting The Banshees of Inisherin, you're predicting that's also going to win Best Picture. But if your prediction is Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to get a picture, and I'm going to give Banshees Screenplay as a sort of consolation prize, they're going to give that the award to Banshees of Inisherin, and they'll give Everything Everywhere All at Once for picture. Hold up, that's not necessarily true, because, like I said, 8 out of the last 10 winners of Best Picture also had a screenplay win. So will they just give the consolation prize to Banshees of Inisherin? They did that Critics' Choice. They did that overlap. And then we're talking about historical precedent, even when we're talking about contenders versus non-contenders, in terms of the archetypes of these winners, they often go to the unique type movies. Get Out beats Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Even though Three Billboards was a stronger Best Picture potential winner, it still went to Get Out. Promising Young Woman versus Trial of Chicago 7. Even though Trial of Chicago 7 I think was number 2 in terms of Best Picture ranking, they still went with Promising Young Woman because they like that sort of more bold, unique, original screenplay. And I think Everything Everywhere All at Once fits that mold. Plus, I think it's going to win for Best Picture. So I don't see a situation in which Everything wins picture and then Banshees wins screenplay. I think that's very unlikely based on historical precedent and the types of awards that the Oscars like to give. I think Everything wins picture and screenplay, or Banshee wins picture and screenplay. I think that's the sort of connection there, and be careful about sort of splitting the two, because you're hedging your bets, and that's never a good thing. You always want to strive for that 100% perfect accuracy, makes sense, holistic predictions. Then the final Oscar storyline I'm interested in watching is the best editing category. Who is going to win, Top Gun Maverick or Everything Everywhere All at Once? And for me, the sort of obvious choice was to go with Top Gun Maverick. Yet I've been seeing a lot of traction for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and if you look at the betting odds, Everything Everywhere All at Once is the actual frontrunner to win for best editing, which was, quite frankly, very surprising to me. Why? Well, the appreciation of it makes sense. You know, I think a lot of people, a surprise in terms of its Oscar nominations. It got score, it got for song, so I think people were sort of surprised by that, and go, okay, well, not only is it going to win for screenplay and picture, and then maybe director, then, you know what, maybe it'll pick up a technical nomination too, editing. It's a very high, fast-paced edited movie, lots of different multiverses back and forth. There's an appreciation there. But I think people are a little bit too quick to jump to conclusions with the nominations. Just because Everything Everywhere All at Once overperformed in terms of its nominations doesn't mean it's going to overperform in terms of its wins. Take last year. Who had the most nominations? The Power of the Dog. How many wins? 1. 2020. Who had the most nominations? Mank. How many wins? 2. Joker. 2019 had the most amount of nominations. How many wins did he get? 2. So let's not say, oh, Everything Everywhere All at Once overperformed in terms of the most nominations. It should ultimately overperform in terms of wins. That's not necessarily true. These are two different things, and I think people should sort of identify that before jumping onto the editing train, before jumping onto the director sort of surprise win. Because if you look at it, you know, Everything Everywhere All at Once could just win picture, screenplay, supporting actor, historical sort of a sweep there, and that's it. Or even if it doesn't win picture, it could win still supporting actor and then maybe actress for Michelle Yeoh. And that would sort of make sense based on the past movies with the most nominations and their sort of wins. Now, it can absolutely win. That's why it's a narrative. I want to see this storyline. But I'll give you the case for Top Gun Maverick, which I think has a really strong historical precedent of being the type of winner to win. Why? Well, because the best editing category is intimately correlated with the best sound category. As a matter of fact, for the past 15 years, the winner of the best editing award also had a sound nomination. And if you look at the past 15 years, the winner of the best editing award also won best sound or a best sound award 12 out of the last 15 years. 9 in a row. Look, so the past 15 years, 12 of those 15, the winner of the best editing also won a best sound award. And then if you look at the last 9 years in a row, the winner of the best editing award also won for best sound. There is an overlap. And then of course the 15 years in a row, the winner of best editing also at least had a sound nomination. Did Everything Everywhere All at Once get nominated for sound? No. You know who did? Top Gun Maverick. You know who the frontrunner is to win for best sound? Top Gun Maverick. So there's a historical precedent 15 years in a row that Everything Everywhere All at Once would have to beat. It would have to overperform against this incredibly difficult stat with a movie that, you know, could make sense if Everything Everywhere All at Once wasn't going to win anything. But we know it's going to win at least one award, Ki Kwan. And in the modern day Oscars, the Oscars that like to spread out the kind of votes, they're essentially saying Everything Everywhere All at Once is so beloved, is so well liked, it's going to win in editing. But even if you're predicting a Parasite-like win, that one in screenplay, that one in director, that one in picture, it didn't win in editing. Ford v Ferrari won in editing. Why? Because Ford v Ferrari also won for best sound. There's a connection with these two categories between how people think of it. Top Gun Maverick still gone for picture. It's still a well-liked movie. Some people think it could even win for best picture. I don't, but it's still that kind of a caliber of a movie. If there was only 5 nominations, I think Top Gun Maverick would have gotten in. So then we're looking at it. Where is it going to win? Not cinematography anymore because it didn't get nominated. So best sound, I think, is a sort of clear winner for that. And then probably best editing too because of that connection. So if you're predicting Everything Everywhere All at Once, you're going against a really strong Oscar stat. Most of the time, I've been doing this for 7 years now, most of the time that doesn't happen. Most of the time, the stats are true for a reason because that's historical precedent. Everything Everywhere All at Once already has its win. Is it really going to overperform so much so that it overperforms a 15-year stat? Probably not. I was surprised to see a lot of people predict Everything Everywhere All at Once, but the historical winner, the betting odds favorite, should be Top Gun Maverick. So ultimately, I think that's where it's going to win. But we'll see the Ace Eddie Awards. Maybe Top Gun Maverick disappoints it and doesn't get nominated. We'll see that. But that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned to next week where I'm going to be talking about 5 categories that I'm unsure about. A little bit of overlap with this video, but other categories too where I'm sort of battling both above the line, but also technical categories as well. Going to be an interesting video. But that's about it. Until next time, stay tuned.